Hey everyone, today we're looking at DBD's hardest achievements. I want to focus less on achievements that are tough because they take ages, and more so on achievements that are hard because of the challenge they provide. Let's get into it. From the void she kills. In a public match, chain 3 or more blinks and successfully land on a survivor, grabbing him successfully. I'm not sure why the description says him and not them or something, but hey, this one is hard because, well, grabs are already pretty hard to pull off, as they typically require very specific circumstances. This one is made harder by the fact that you're nurse, and it's almost impossible for the survivors to not hear you coming, what with the loud screams. On top of this, you need to chain 3 blinks first, which nowadays can only be done with the iridescent torn bookmark add-on. I did this personally by using Tinkerer, and I believe the reason why I got the grab was because the survivor committed to finishing the generator, and so I got lucky. This, I think though, is maybe the game's hardest achievement. Tools of the Trade. Achieve a merciless victory 5 times in a public match, with only 3 universal perks equipped. Merciless victories can be achieved by getting a 4k, or playing very well and getting a 3k, I believe. Universal perks are perks that are available to everyone. These perks are not that bad, but this is essentially just a harder version of the Adept achievements, I would say, particularly as it requires you to do it 5 times. There are some decent perks in there like Noed or Sloppy Butcher, but a lot of them are fairly average, and so I think compared to a lot of the Adepts, this is the hardest. Again, particularly because it requires 5 completions over just the 1. You could, however, do this on Nurse, which would of course make it far easier. It depends, but basically, I think this is the hardest Adept-esque achievement in the game, and so deserves a spot here. This could be replaced by any Adept you may find the hardest though, as I do think Adepts can be tricky. Evil Incarnate. In a public match, kill all 4 survivors with the tier 3 Evil Within. To do this, you need to run the Iridescent Tombstone add-on, and it's best done with the other Iri add-on to allow infinite usage of tier 3. This one is tricky largely because people really will try their hardest to not get moried. Surprise, surprise. The way tier 3 Evil Within works with the Tombstone add-on is that you're slowed by 9%, and you have to grab people whilst running. It doesn't let you mori them if they are in the dying state, or if you grab them out of a locker or something. This means everyone jumps into lockers, to make this as hard as possible to complete. It's particularly hard as you need to mori all 4 survivors, and with the 2 Iris slowing your stalk progress, you typically don't get tier 3 until it's close to the end of the game, so there's lots of pressure. The slower movement can be countered with the perk Play With Your Food, but still, this is a tough challenge. I only got it because someone was nice enough to essentially give it to me. In another game, someone stayed in a locker and waited for the endgame collapse to kill them before they would let me. It depends on the survivors, I guess. Skilled Huntress. In public matches, down survivors 20 times with the Huntress's hatchets further than 24 meters. The thing that makes this a bit harder too is that it requires you to not just land a hit, but actually down them with the hit, so they have to already be injured, or alternately run Eerie head hatchets. 24 meters is a surprisingly long distance, and with many maps having objects or strange collision, it can be rare to get those long-range shots, particularly ones that result in downs. A challenging achievement, and on console, this achievement had a completion rate of 0.05%, which is kind of crazy. Hemophobia. In a public match, escape the disturbed ward without losing a single drop of blood. This one I really like, and I kind of wish there was an equivalent achievement for every map. It's essentially playing a flawless game of DBD as Survivor without receiving a single hit. This is a solid challenge and means you have to either play very stealthily or you just have to play flawlessly in chase and manage to escape. I personally love this as a challenge and think it would be a great addition for every map of the game. A no-hit challenge is very interesting. And yeah, a little luck reliant, but I do think this one is largely skill based, which I love. Left 4 Dead. As the last person still alive, activate the last generator and escape through the exit gate. This is hard because I believe when this challenge was made, shutting the hatch used to not begin the endgame collapse and power the gates, which meant you were able to access generators easier. Nowadays you kind of need to do this in a very tight window, as the killer after leaving you as the last person will likely go straight for the hatch over checking generators. Not only this, but you need to escape through a gate, which makes this even harder. It's a lot of luck, a lot of circumstance, and a lot of good timing and skill is needed to properly pull this off. You could maybe try to make it work by bringing a brand new part and timing the generator progress with the third survivor being removed from the game, and do it that way. I don't remember how I got this one, but a challenge for sure. There's just so many things that have to line up to make this work. Power moves. Equip 0 perks, repair generators for a total of 1 full repair, and escape 8 times in public matches. This one is difficult purely because it requires you to run no perks, which in itself is a decent challenge. Not only this, but you have to actually participate in the match somewhat, and complete at least 1 full generator, and then escape the trial. I think this really depends on how you play the game. I think if you solo queue these matches, it will be a genuinely difficult challenge. If you have a group to play with, I think not so much. Regardless, the concept of this challenge is one I like a lot, and I would be interested to see more of these challenge types implemented. Maybe even a step up from this, where you have to do a generator, take chase for at least a minute, and cleanse a totem or something, then escape. This challenge is still a great one though, and I would recommend trying it because it really gets you to test your actual game skill when not relying on perks. Collision course. Slam one survivor into another 10 times in public matches. This is an achievement for the mastermind, and requires you to slam one survivor into another with your power. It's pretty tricky to pull this off, even when attempting to do so. Since Wesker's release, I've only managed to do this once naturally. I think the best way to do this would be to play in a rather unpleasant way, and insta-slam people after they get unhooked so it collaterals, or something like that. Due to how the survivors both have to be in a straight line, it'll be tricky. Maybe sending yourself to an indoor map with longer hallways would be best. Still, this one is really tough I think, and one of the harder character-specific achievements in the game. Item of Obsession. In a public match, as the killer's obsession, escape as the last survivor without getting hit. This one is super interesting, and is similar to the no-hit runs with just a bit more on top, requiring you to not only be the obsession for the game, but also escape last. Being obsession can be triggered with perks, so that's not so bad. However, escaping last is actually a big pain I think. Those escape last challenges from the tomes are very frustrating to do I find, and typically take a while to complete. You also have to do this without getting hit, which I think is a very interesting stipulation. I think this one basically requires you to play stealthily and probably escape through the hatch. You could maybe queue up with others and have them do most of the work, but it's kind of reliant on luck again. As the obsession too, it means you may be targeted. It also could be hard because there's more killer-sided perks now that can change the obsession, like Nemesis for example, meaning things could suddenly go sideways if the obsession were to change. Interesting challenge with very odd but fun ideas I think. Outbreak Breakout. Open the exit gates and escape from Raccoon City Police Department 20 times in public matches. Now, this is maybe the closest to a grindier one over difficulty, but I would still say it has an edge of difficulty, with it requiring you to escape, be the one to open the gates, and do so on RPD, doing this 20 times. I've played a lot since the release of RPD, and I currently have just 6 games as progress, as passive input. Not much to say on this one, and I do think it's fairly luck related, but yeah, it's still a tough one, and a combination of being grindy and being a challenge. Alright, well, that's gonna do it. Was there any achievement you would have added to this list that I missed? Thanks, and goodbye.